I vanished and served my wife divorce papers the second we found out she was pregnant, despite her spending every last cent she had to support me. I left her drowning in my massive debts, forcing a pregnant woman to live like a fugitive just to stay one step ahead of the collectors. She spent her nights shrugging off the chill under concrete bridges and her days hunting for a meal in the depths of garbage bins. While the world spat on my name as the ultimate lowlife, nobody realized I was actually fighting a losing battle against a terminal diagnosis. 5 years back, I buried the truth and fled the country in a desperate solo attempt to find a cure. My body failed me the moment I landed, leaving me in a coma for 2.5 years before my condition finally leveled off. Deep down, I knew the next time the symptoms flared up would be my final curtain call. I hired a private eye to track her down, only to discover that my disappearance had left both her and our daughter in a world of pain and hatred. That reality sat heavy in my gut for a long time, especially since I'm a man living on borrowed time who could drop dead at any moment. For 3 grueling years, I endured a daily hell of aggressive treatments, living in a state of perpetual bone-deep agony. In the shadow of my looming death, I funneled every ounce of my remaining energy into forging a financial powerhouse. I built a corporate titan from the ground up and used my influence from the shadows to turn Yurian into the nation's top superstar. She has put out 99 tracks in the 4 years since she hit the scene, and every single one has been a chart-topping sensation. Today, every major news outlet and musical heavyweight in Dacia is packed into this room for the debut of Yurian's 100th song. The industry's golden girl arrived 4 years ago, maintaining a reputation as pure and untainted as the day she started. To the public and the paparazzi, she remains a total enigma, known only for her incredible voice and unmatched talent. The internet is constantly buzzing with theories, making her hidden history the most debated unsolved mystery in the country. But the silence ends today at this press event, where she is finally prepared to pull back the curtain on her past. I'm watching the live stream from a nearby cabin, my 30-something face looking gaunt and pale as I stay glued to the screen. I am the man who loves her more than life itself, yet I'm also the monster who left the deepest scars on her soul. This 100th song launch might be the final time I see her face before my clock runs out, and I need this one last glimpse. I refuse to go into the dark with a heart full of regrets while holding this notebook titled Memoirs of a Monster. This journal is a play-by-play of every cruel thing I did to her, and every single promise I had the nerve to break. I want to relive every tiny detail of our time together one last time before I close my eyes for good. My health has taken a nosedive, leaving me with only 3 months to live. As the pain starts to swallow me whole, my closest friend Situ gave me a reassuring pat, amazed that the world-famous kingmaker of music was actually such a tragic romantic. I just looked away. Kingmaker? That's a joke. If it weren't for her, that title wouldn't even exist in this world. I blocked out his talking and let my eyes slowly drift shut. I'm just so incredibly drained. And though I'm awake now, I'll be sleeping for eternity very soon. Having seen her again, I can finally find peace. Seeing me lose consciousness, Situ quietly took the journal and signaled for the staff to move me back to my bed. Then he straightened his suit and walked right into the middle of the media frenzy. My dying wish was for him to pass my entire fortune to her, while keeping my secret buried so she'd never know the truth. But for the first time ever, Situ had no intention of following my orders. A reporter at the event stood up to ask why she was sharing her story now. Yurian smiled sadly, choking back her feelings as she spoke. She explained that the core theme of this milestone 100th track is about deep remorse and the paths we didn't take. Suddenly, a mocking laugh cut through the quiet room. Regret. Tell me, do you actually regret walking away from that piece of trash? The entire room turned toward a man in his 30s with a hard, weathered face that looked like it had survived 1,000 storms. Her expression darkened as she stared back at him, admitting that looking back only brought her a sense of profound shame. With brutal bluntness, Situ asked if she recognized the journal in his hand. He held the book high, the words, "Diary of a Scumbag," gleaming under the relentless barrage of camera flashes. Yurian's eyes locked onto the yellowed, aged pages, and she stood there completely frozen in a state of shock. She bit her lip until it turned white, a look of pure sorrow crossing her face as she recognized the villain's ledger. I had handwritten those 4 words myself a lifetime ago. "Where did you find that?" she asked, her voice trembling with desperation. She was desperate for answers, but Situ ignored her and flipped to the very first page to read the opening lines out loud. "You told me you love the magic of fireworks, but hate how they die. So I'll make it rain flowers all night, so you never have to watch the beauty fade. You claim to adore the starlight, yet you're blind to the one burning just for you. I tell her the cosmos stays dark without her spark." Zitu's voice was hauntingly steady. Yurian froze. "Did he send you?" Situ smirked. "You hoping he did?" Silence followed. Situ didn't care. "If you want the truth, get to the rooftop. I'll be waiting there." He walked out without looking back, knowing she'd follow. Yurian stood shaken, heart hammering with dread. I'd pictured us meeting again, but never like this. "Rian, stay. Remember the agony he caused?" Lin Yu, her manager and closest friend, gripped her arm with frantic desperation. Lin Yu knew the nightmare of the last 5 years better than anyone. Yurian winced at the memory. Half a decade of trauma flooded back. I hadn't seen his face since the day we broke. "Why now?" Yurian took a breath to calm herself. "I'm going. I need to see him. I want to look him in the eye and mock him. No pity, no mercy, only pure hate." She marched out, Lin Yu and the rest of the crew trailing behind her like ghosts. The media vultures followed, hunting for drama. Yurian led the way onto the rooftop. She stopped dead shock, freezing her features. Thousands of tiny lights flickered in the dark, flickering memories. Every movie we ever watched together huddled on that old sofa. She was such a sucker for the sad parts, crying at every emotional beat. She'd rewind the heartbreaks just to weep. I used to call her my sweet little fool. I used to watch those same scenes with her over and over. Now her eyes were dry. I sneered. "Is this it? You think this moves me?" She screamed at my back, desperate for a reaction. She knew it was me. No one else knew our secrets. It was pathetic, really. "Where were you 5 years ago when I was drowning? Where?" I offered no answer. I just bent down and sparked a lighter. A firework hissed, screaming skyward like a silver arrow. Suddenly the heavens erupted. A rain of neon fire shattered the silent night. That first blast was just a signal. As the light faded, the real chaos began. A low rhythmic thunder rolled through the streets as rockets roared from every corner of the city. They painted the darkness in a heartbeat, forcing every soul to look up in awe. The city of Modo was drowning in liquid light, the most breathtaking display in history. Lovers held each other tight in the streets, mesmerized by a beauty they thought was theirs. As the smoke cleared, 5 massive words burned into the void: "Yurian, I love you." The world finally saw the target. Yurian's heart skipped a beat. If I didn't care, how could I remember? That lantern festival, she wished for eternal light. I forgot nothing. I remembered every single whisper from that year. I set the whole city on fire for her, but the sky shifted. People gasped, wondering if their minds were playing tricks. The clouds parted, revealing thousands of stars that shouldn't have been there. Not stars, thousands of paper lanterns floating upward in a massive glowing tide. A perfect, impossible illusion. The scale was madness. How many lives were touched by this? The city glowed warm in the firelight. Tears finally broke, tracing lines down her face. Everyone saw a miracle. I only saw the bitterness hidden behind the curtain. I'd pushed myself for 1 month while my body was failing. I couldn't even stand, yet I did it. A scream pierced the air as 5 new words took shape. "Yurian, do you? The love was gone, replaced by a ghost. Yurian, do you regret it?" Before she could breathe, music filled the roof. Situ handed her the microphone. "Recognize the tune?" he asked. She took it, sobbing as the notes hit her soul. How could she forget her 100th song, the one she was supposed to release today? She began to sing, her voice a fragile river of grief, drowning the rooftop in her pain. A stifling hush gripped the room, making everyone drop their phones in shock. The marketing hype vanished, replaced by the raw agony of her melody as she mourned a ghost who once steered her soul. That lingering ache still haunts me, finally revealing the hollow core of a love story turned to ash. Melodies possess a cruel talent for pinpointing our deepest, most hidden emotional scars. Thanks for witnessing this final purge of affection. Cheers thundered as Dacia unveiled her latest, most tragic work of art. Yet beneath the stage lights, Yurian's composure shattered into desperate, choking tears. Her gaze swept the shadows, hunting for a ghost from her past. Give it up, he is long gone. Situ's voice cut like ice through her frantic state. Are you truly numb, or are you still burning for him? His tone remained level, as Yurian shook, crushed by the phantom weight of a devotion she once cherished. These were her childhood fantasies laid bare. No one could stay stoic while their innocence bled out. Nearby, in Yu's fuse blue, Rian ignore his lies. Did you block out the hell that man dragged you through? He is a parasite. He is only crawling back now to feast on your fame with these pathetic mind games. Show him mercy and he will drain the life right out of you until there is nothing left. Those toxic accusations sparked a wave of judgment. As the rumors swelled, Zitu's expression hardened into a mask of pure fury. He despised these judgmental strangers who acted like they knew the first thing about his reality. Yet a few perceptive souls saw through the noise. A veteran reporter chimed in, questioning the logic of the situation. His motives are a mystery, but one thing is certain: that man is not looking for a handout today. Old Shun pointed upward. Those pyrotechnics were not cheap. They are custom made by the elite Moto Fireworks crew. Each shell cost thousands of dollars. And consider the sheer length of this massive non-stop performance. Even a lowball guess puts this spectacle at $500 million minimum. Factor in the bespoke lanterns and staffing, and you are looking at a bill closer to 1 billion. 1 billion. Rian is not even worth that much. Why would a billionaire play the role of a desperate gold digger? Once the reporter crunched the numbers, a haunting stillness smothered the entire crowd. The scale of the wealth was blinding. A man dropping 10 figures is not a beggar, he is a king among mortals. Situ's intense gaze remained anchored on Rian, silently demanding a confession. Rian's lips curled in a tragic smirk. Even the brightest sparks go dark. The past is a dead country, right? Do you honestly believe he stopped caring for you? Miss Rian Situ's question hung heavy in the air. That jerk does not deserve a second of your time. Drag him out, I promise not to kill him. Probably. Panic flared in Lin Yu. She had witnessed every agonizing step of Rian's solitary battle for survival over the years. How dare this man lecture her on devotion? After all the blood she had spilled to stay afloat. Situ tuned out the noise, focused solely on Ryan. Lin Yu's 5-year vigil of pain had fueled her hatred for me. But Situ had also been my shadow during that same half-decade of shared secrets. He witnessed my obsession firsthand. Now he needed to know if Rian felt a single heartbeat of desire beneath her spite. If even a flicker of love remained, then every agonizing loss I endured would finally make sense. Her thoughts were a hurricane, the questions stabbing her heart. Yet she kept her professional poker face perfectly intact. We are merely background noise in each other's stories now. It is better if we just keep walking separate paths. Absolute silence is our best ending. Situ offered a sad grin, finally feeling the weight of his brother's tragedy. Vision can be deceiving, Miss Rian. If you throw this away, the regret will eventually consume you whole. Regret? For losing a man like him? You are delusional, that day will never come, she spat back. Think back 4 years to the City Children's Hospital, Situ began. But she silenced him instantly. Rian gripped Lin Yu's hand, offering a grim, decisive nod. It is okay. The truth was going to leak eventually. Tonight I am exposing exactly what kind of monster he was when I needed him the most. The audience held their breath. As she gripped the mic, her voice cutting through the silence like a scalpel. Following our split, I went on 2 desperate, frantic hunts to track that man down. 2 months later, I was hunting him because a doctor told me I was expecting. The room exploded in frenzy. The truth had finally broken the dam. Silence was no longer an option. I raised my hand to kill the noise. The room went dead silent. "It's true," I whispered. Seeing that positive test sent me spiraling. Forget the scars he left. I had to find him. I was desperate for my baby to have a real home, a father. Even a deadbeat like him was better than nothing. I rattled every cage to find him. I blew up his phone begging for just one word. Every vibration felt like hope. I grilled every mutual friend we ever had, but the guy had gone ghost. But that lie didn't last long. A friend caught him leaving a hotel with some bombshell. My heart didn't just break, it died. "Rot in hell!" Someone spat. I shook my head. "He doesn't even deserve the truth." I chose to keep my baby. Not for some ghost of a man, but for myself. She was part of me, a pure soul in a messy world. I loved her instantly. My own parents tossed me out. Without Lin Yu, we would have starved on the street. The room went cold. Hearing it felt like a direct hit to the gut. My voice shook as I looked Situ in the eye. "And you tell me this now? $1 billion for a smile." It's nauseating. Where was he when the world was ending? Where was he when his daughter was dying? Was he busy playing make-believe? Now that he's bored, he wants his family back. Situ looked like he was hiding something. Situ remained silent, bound by a vow to keep a terminal diagnosis hidden. "He was broke back then," Situ muttered, but even he knew how thin that sounded. "Money isn't love," I snapped. "The man is hollow. He never gave a damn about her." "He's her father too," Situ pleaded. His eyes lit up whenever he spoke about her. "Oh, please," I snapped. "Then where was he the second time I went looking?" I had nothing. No home, no hope. Just pure, unadulterated rage keeping me upright. Lin Yu helped me deliver her, but the celebration was short-lived. My girl had severe anemia. She was fading. She needed a blood transfusion immediately, or she wouldn't make it. She had the rarest blood type on earth. The hospital was empty. Only he could save her. Can you imagine that level of pure soul-crushing desperation? The doctor gave her 48 hours. 2 days to find a miracle or bury her. I lost it right there. Lin Yu's arms wrapped around me, a silent anchor in my storm. "Breathe," Lin Yu whispered. "The nightmare is over. We survived the worst of it." I pulled myself together, locking my pain behind a wall of ice. I went feral searching. I even cornered that hotel girl, begging her for his location. Dignity is for people who aren't watching their kids die. I would have sold my soul. I spent hours on my knees outside his old office while people laughed and mocked me. My daughter was fading, and I was screaming his name into the empty night. Soft sobs rippled through the audience. The weight of my agony was crushing. I was postpartum and bleeding on the street, begging for a ghost. If the hospital hadn't made a last-minute find, I'd be visiting a tiny grave today. And that father of hers never showed, never called, never even spared a glance at her. He's a stranger. Take a message back to him. Stay in whatever hole you crawled into. Don't look for us. Don't call us. Just disappear for good this time. Situ smiled bitterly, watching my mask of frozen composure. The hatred I radiated was suffocating. Situ didn't know who the villain was anymore. Maybe, just maybe, he was actually there for her when the world was falling apart. Situ flipped the journal to the entry dated May 13th, 2016. That was the night of the procedure, and Situ began reading the passage aloud. "The sky is breathtaking today. I dragged my broken self to see my daughter for the first time. I'm Yu, a failure and a pathetic father. My soul shattered. You're so tiny, so perfect. I felt our biological tether pulling at me, begging to hold you. But the second I reached out to touch you, the surgeon stopped me. He said you were a choice apple picked by God. The Almighty loved you so much he couldn't help but take a bite. That's why you were born so fragile. You're too delicate for the filth of this world." What a cruel God. My hand just hung there, paralyzed. Right then I was dying to tell that doctor something. This was likely the closest I'd ever be. My only shot. This man was blocking a father from his own flesh and blood. Is there a deeper hell for a parent? But I'm not sad because I know we'll be one soon. My life force will be with you forever. Isn't that the ultimate protection? If you ever learn the truth, little girl, just know your daddy loved you. As Situ stopped, my head started spinning. I shrieked, "No, this is a lie. This isn't about him. He's not the man who wrote those words. It's impossible. I won't hear it. I refuse to believe it." In my mind, he was a cold, heartless monster. Admitting my daughter's life is his gift. I can't accept that. The memories came flooding back. The blood bank was empty and I couldn't find you anywhere. Just as I lost hope, the hospital called with a miracle. A stranger with rare blood stepped up to save her. I knew how impossible that blood was to find. In all of Dacia, it hadn't been seen in 50 years. But in my manic relief, I didn't question it. I just thought the universe was finally showing my baby grace. I tried tracking that donor later, but they'd vanished without a name. Now all these dots are connecting. No matter the truth, I can't accept this. Hating someone for years only to realize you were wrong is too much. The room went dead silent as the weight of the diary's revelation settled over everyone. Yu was the one who saved her. Situ continued, "We love you, but I won't see you grow up. You'll get bigger day by day. If you can visit me in a dream and just tell me you're healthy. When you're older, listen to your mom. She's the one who loves you most, the most beautiful soul on earth." The credits simply list Sunshine Music Group as the producer. Yurian was drowning in tears fighting the truth. But her gut knew Bobo's savior was Yu. It had to be. Situ shut the book and pressed a donation slip from 5 years ago into my hand with Yu's name. Seeing those 2 words scrawled in bright red, I finally broke. I collapsed into a fit of sobbing. My grief wasn't for me, but for Bobo and every ounce of suffering she'd been forced to endure. Yet I felt a small peace knowing she actually had a father who cared. Situ just signaled the tech crew. Suddenly, the opening notes of the song "Listen to Mom" began to echo through the air. The crowd was hooked as the lyrics asked, "Kid got questions. Why are others playing while I'm stuck practicing piano?" The song shifted to a child's perspective, venting all the frustrations of growing up under a watchful eye. I wondered, were you picturing Bobo's life then? If you loved her, why'd you leave her behind? I realized that if he had just shown his face, then even if we were drowning in debt, I would have stood by him until the very end. My heart softened as the melody continued. Why listen to Mom? When you're older, you'll understand. You'll see why I can run faster and soar higher than everyone else. In the future, the world will see my art and sing my songs. Situ started to break down. It was her first real collapse. She remembered exactly when Yu wrote this, and the look on his face. He knew Yurian was stubborn and that Bobo would likely end up catching the brunt of it. But he was adamant that Bobo could never resent her, because Yurian was the purest woman he'd known. He wanted Bobo to know her mother's discipline was pure love. Situ's voice began to crack and waver. Without me, how will they survive? What if people bully my girl? Yurian's temper is so short. If Bobo is like her, who's going to mediate, is one song enough? What if Yurian finds someone new? What if she moves on? If she finds a new partner, will he mistreat Bobo? Will kids tease her? What if she ends up with another wreck like me and gets destroyed? I'd never find peace. Situ finally saw the truth. Each word was the agonizing cry of a father, trapped by his own love. Yurian's pain was real, but Yu's was deeper. At least she got to hold her little girl. Silence fell as the music died, replaced by a low buzz. People were starting to second-guess everything they thought they knew about him. My face was a mess of mascara and tears as a crushing weight hit my chest. I stared at Situ, my eyes stinging, and wheezed. Where is he? Where's he hiding? Situ went to speak, but Linyu cut her off like a blade. Don't fall for his pathetic games. It's all talk. If he actually gave a damn, why the hell did he stay silent until now? Giving blood to his own kid was just being a father. Using his basic responsibilities to guilt trip you is a total joke. Lin Yu's eyes burned with contempt. Does one decent act suddenly erase a lifetime of being a monster?
She's his daughter. He was supposed to save her. Situ just met her gaze with a chilling, knowing smirk.
Supposed to, sure. It's common sense to save your own flesh and blood. But do you have any idea what it cost him? You people have no clue what he gave up. He wasn't just a donor, he was a dying cancer patient. To keep that blood pure for her, he put himself through hell. It wasn't some routine chemo session. It was a living nightmare that made him beg for the end. You ever feel a needle drive deep into your marrow? Now imagine it twice. Picture doing that with 0 painkillers. I can describe it all day, but you'll never feel that level of agony. Imagine a thick metal spike forced through your femur and out the back. He sat through that time and time again. He turned down the morphine to keep his blood clean, grinding his teeth until they literally snapped, never letting out a single scream. He called his blood poison and insisted on purifying it. He refused to let his daughter's life be ruined by his own rot. When the doctor finally cleared his blood, he just grinned a massive, haunting smile through a mouth soaked in red. Situ couldn't even look. Who would survive that kind of hell even for their own child? Once the transfusion was done, I was finished. I never took another step on my own. I've spent 5 years rotting in this chair. If you don't know the full story, keep your mouth shut. I kept the agony out of my journals. To me, it was just part of the job. Somewhere nearby, I drifted awake in my seat. I'm exhausted. I can feel my time running out. I forced my eyes open and stared at the monitor. I planned this years ago. This light show is the last thing I'll ever give her. I can't let her see me like this, but I needed that smile. I planted a camera just so I could see her one last time. The show ended sooner than I thought. I stared at the black screen and let out a bitter, hollow laugh. I clicked replay to start the display over. She always loved fireworks, and I wanted to soak in every ounce of her happiness. She looked so happy at first, but then my heart just stopped. The sky was full of light, but I felt like I was drowning. There was Situ on the screen, reading my private thoughts to the world. My heart hammered against my ribs in total terror. What the hell are you doing, Situ? I gasped, my voice shaking. I clawed at the air, desperate to find my phone and end this. She can't forgive me, not now. If she finds out the truth once I'm dead, it'll break her forever. She's already been through too much. The sheer panic made my hands seize up, and the phone tumbled off my lap along with the blanket. I tried to reach for it, but I'm paralyzed. The nurse grabbed it for me while I scrambled to find his number. I need to shut him up before it's too late. I want her to hate me forever. I tried to hit call, but the room started spinning and everything just went dark. Situ's phone buzzed, and he checked the identification. He stepped into the shadows and took the call, not saying a word. 2 minutes passed before he whispered, "I don't get it," and ended the call. He looked even more lethal than before. He was on the fence, but his rage on my behalf finally pushed him over the edge. Situ locked eyes with Yurian. "You really think he didn't care? Forgotten that you were the one who walked out on him both times? Did he ever actually fail you? Can you name one single time he actually betrayed your trust?" The room went dead silent as the weight of his words hit her. He wasn't wrong. She was the runner, but the guilt was too much to swallow. She started to protest, but Lin Yu barked out first.
"Give it a rest," Lin Yu yelled. "You think she's just forgotten his betrayals?"
She worshipped the ground he walked on. Leaving was never an option until he decimated her soul. Do you honestly find comfort in spinning these fantasies? Situ snapped. Who's the one rewriting history here? I was right there in the trenches with her through everything. Lin Yu yelled, her eyes blazing with rage. Nobody knows the reality like I do, and I'll promise you this much. She poured her soul into that bond, never once causing him pain. Yet her only reward was a cold goodbye. Situ stood his ground. He vividly recalled her descent into darkness and the fatal diagnosis that followed her collapse. He felt ice-cold indifference for the famous figure standing there. The celebrity status meant nothing to him. Yurian gave a bitter, mocking chuckle. So let me guess, she painted me as the villain in her tragedy. Consumed by her own bitterness, she demanded to know exactly how much he thought he understood about 5 years ago. As the memories flooded back, her voice slowed to a crawl. That night, half a decade ago, was the very first time I touched a drop of booze. That liquid courage finally pushed me over the edge. I'd reached my breaking point with his endless cold shoulders and silent treatment. Catching him hitting on other women was the final straw. I knew then it was time to cut the cord for good. Is this really what you want? You're actually walking away? Linyu questioned her with heavy concern. Yurian downed another round, tears blurring her vision. This makes 2 times I've left him, but I promise it's the final exit. Our reconciliation was a mistake. After the first split, my mother panicked about my future and forced me into a setup. That was the exact second the first splinter of doubt lodged itself deep in my chest. I was just checking a box to keep my mom happy. But when my date walked toward the table, the world just fell apart. Standing there was the same man she'd kicked to the curb only 72 hours earlier, clutching a single flower, looking like a nervous wreck. His hands were shaking so badly he looked completely lost. He stammered out, "Since fate clearly wants us together, can we try again? I'm Yiyu, by the way." We reunited right then, but I was always too scared to ask why he was looking for a new girl 3 days after we split. She gulped down the burning liquid, her voice cracking with old wounds. Does a man who truly loves you move on that fast? I convinced myself of a million lies, but that nagging suspicion never truly went away. Once we patched things up, his affection just vanished. He started staying out later and later, leaving me in an empty house. The dark scares me to death, but my desperation drove me out into the night, just to find him. Her voice gave out at the most painful part. I finally spotted him one night curled up alone in his car. Isn't that just sad? He'd rather sleep in a cramped seat than be near me. He knew I was waiting, but he couldn't stand the thought of coming home. Does that sound like love to you? Or was he just hiding a growing resentment for me? Maybe I was just a paycheck to him. To that man, I wasn't a partner. I was a human ATM. Sobbing openly, she finally confessed the truth she'd hidden. I knew his heart had left the building years ago. He was already messaging other women. I caught a glimpse of a text asking when he was finally going to break the news to me. What could that possibly mean? What else do you call it besides an affair? I watched her play the martyr and couldn't help but smirk. I had a story of my own that might just change her tune. She scowled, accusing me of trying to sugarcoat the hell she'd endured. I gave her a chilling grin. Who knows where the truth lies? Or are you just scared of what I have to say? She dared me to speak, certain I was just spinning lies. Linyu panicked, shouting that I was dragging his name through the mud. I produced the old journal, flipped to a page from 5 years back, and started reading aloud. I'm at this blind date mixer 5 years ago waiting. She blocked me on everything, and I've been a ghost ever since she left. This is my final shot. She mentioned her mom was pushing her toward these events, and I prayed she'd show up to this one. My gamble worked. I spotted her coming through the door. I was a nervous wreck seeing the woman I couldn't live without. I wanted to run to her, but I didn't want to blow it. Somehow I kept it together as I walked up to her, clutching those roses with shaking hands. I shakily suggested a fresh start since we crossed paths again, and she agreed. She has no clue what I went through to get there. I kept the sheer terror of those 72 hours without her entirely to myself. Someone asked why we split if I loved her so much. Honestly, I still don't have an answer. Once we reunited, I swore I'd become the man she deserved and carry the weight of our future. We'd just launched the music label. Every cent was buried in that venture. I was so broke, Yurian had to cover my tabs just so I could eat. That shame fueled my fire. I was hell-bent on building her the life she deserved. 2 a.m. became our standard exit time from the office. That's when my body first started keeping score. I worked into the dead of night. Yurian woke up at the slightest sound, so I was terrified of disturbing her rest. Usually I'd just kill the engine in the driveway and crash in the front seat. I'd sit in the silence, picturing her sleeping peacefully inside. I'd drift off with a grin just thinking about her. I memorized every quirk she had. I was deep into planning the ultimate surprise. Social settings usually paralyze me, but for her I pushed through. I hit up every female friend I knew for tips. Failure wasn't an option. One girl teased me, asking when I'd finally spill the secret. I checked my screen and beamed like a kid with his first crush. I told her the pieces were almost in place. I just had to lock down those concert seats. Singing was her soul, and I knew this would floor her. That show wasn't just a night out. It was my proposal stage. I'd obsessed over every single second of it. I wanted to give her the world. I never saw the wreckage coming. The day I was set to offer her forever was the exact day she pulled the plug. In the same breath, I said, "Marry me," and she said, "It's over." Those roses hit the pavement like funeral dirt. Right then, our lives split in two. Yurian just stood there paralyzed. She'd spent years branding me a liar, but now the truth was screaming at her. This is just some script he wrote to play the martyr. Linyu spat, though her confidence was shaking. She claimed if I were actually decent, Yurian never would have walked away. But the facts were airtight. The dates lined up perfectly. Who could fake a timeline this flawless on the fly? The logic didn't track for them. If this was all a misunderstanding, why did I stay silent? Was the truth really that hard to tell? They figured I was just rewriting history in a diary to look like the hero. Situ bit his lip, drowning in the heavy silence. How could he explain the terminal diagnosis? Or that my silence was my final gift? Situ kept the secret buried, refusing to let the words terminal illness escape. Her quiet only fueled Linyu's rage. She screamed that regardless of some old notes, I was still a deadbeat. She listed the hell Royuan endured. She brought up how much little Guagua suffered because of my absence. "Do you have any idea?" she hissed. She painted the picture of Ruyuan pregnant and abandoned. Ruyuan tried to kill the conversation, begging her to stop. Linyu just smirked, determined to twist the knife. "I see you, Ruyuan. He's getting under your skin again, isn't he?" She warned her not to get played by the same old tricks. "Remember the trenches we climbed out of?" Ruyuan tried to find her voice, but her heart was already betraying her. Those journal entries were softening her armor. She was craving the warmth I used to give her. Linyu saw the hesitation and doubled down. She wasn't letting her best friend go back to a ghost. They'd crawled through glass to get here. The good life was finally within reach. Linyu wasn't about to let me burn it all down again. She glared at Situ. "Since you're speechless, answer me this. Do you know the weight of being pregnant and alone in this world? Even if she'd messed up, can you call it love when the father vanishes, when things get real?" Situ started to choke out a response. "You don't get it." Linyu cut her off. "You couldn't. So let me spell it out for you." When Royuan found out, she was 3 months in. Her folks gave her the choice: lose the kid or lose her home. She was just a kid herself. She was lost, but she wouldn't give up on that heartbeat. She stood outside clinics more times than I can count, hearing a tiny voice calling her mommy in her head. She broke down, knowing she couldn't do it. She ran. She chose to starve if it meant keeping her baby. And that despicable man you claim loves her, I was the wrecking ball aimed at her final shred of hope. Ryuan finally had a real career. Then the vultures circled. They brandished my old loan papers, her name highlighted, as the one who guaranteed my debt. They told her I had vanished. Since I was not there to pay, they hunted her down, tearing through her life and family. She was broke, so they terrorized her parents and harassed her friends until her workplace turned against her. That triggered her parents' health crisis. Soon her inner circle treated her like she was radioactive. Then she was fired. Those animals squeezed every last cent she had until there was nothing left. Think about it. Could you imagine a pregnant woman sleeping on a freezing park bench at midnight? Do you know the agony of watching your father wither away while you are forced to stay away? Can you feel the despair of a woman on a 30-story roof ready to jump? You would not know. You are nothing but a dog. Just a pathetic hound barking out whatever nonsense your master feeds you. Go ask your boss how he plans to pay this back. Can he even afford it? Linyu's voice was pure venom. The crowd fell silent, their eyes judging me as a man who did not deserve another breath. Situ did not hear them. His face paled as he realized exactly which nightmare timeline Linyu was describing. I remember those days. I remember them so vividly I could grind my teeth into dust. My fists clenched until they shook, drowning in the fury of how powerless I felt back then. I took those loans to build my business, but I paid them off. Those scavengers just kept the records. While she was being hunted, I was in a hospital bed secretly signing everything over to her. Those bastards heard rumors I was dead and that she was inheriting a fortune. They went for the throat. I survived, but learning what she went through nearly finished me off. What followed was my surgical, cold-blooded revenge. Every person who touched her ended up in a cell. Situ whispered that I was in the dark. He did not reveal my terminal illness. That is the one line he will not cross without my permission. That secret is my final boundary. Linyu sneered. Is that your pathetic excuse? You have got nothing better, she added coldly. She said it was not just about the career. She could not even afford a doctor. Malnutrition left our daughter born with severe anemia. Do you know the toll Ruyuan spent nights vomiting, her body swollen and failing? She had to care for the baby, but she was too starved to even produce milk. To buy formula, she washed dishes in freezing water for pennies. Do you have any idea what that does? When I finally found her, I asked why she would suffer like that. She was not being foolish. It was the only job that let her keep the baby close. Our daughter was recovering from surgery. She never had a day to recover after giving birth. Where was I during all of that? Where was the legendary Yurian then? Do not even try to come back. Your reasons are worthless. They mean nothing now, Linyu screamed, defending Ruyuan's honor with every breath. She is convinced that Royuan's circle will never forgive my sins. Situ's eyes filled with tears. It is not about being weak. Life has just been a relentless gauntlet. We are all battered and bruised. At least she had my secret protection. But what did I have left for myself? Once my death clock started ticking, every second was pure torture. Despair was my only friend. Situ opened my journal and began reading. September 10th, our first day apart. I cannot sleep. I am drowning in regret. I remember kneeling before you with those roses crying, but I could not say the truth that I am dying. If I am not enough, I will change everything. I will be better. September 13th. I am breaking. That red error icon on my screen is haunting me. I sent 1,000 texts and waited for you, but you never came. September 30th. I am sorry. I am not giving up yet. My body is failing, but I will tell myself I am getting stronger. Situ looked up at Royuan and reminded her she was the one who vanished. I lost our home, but did you ever give me a second to explain? Ruyuan wept as reality hit. She killed the screen, hoping a dark display could silence the ghosts in her head. Masquerading as a poised traveler, she hid her shattering heart behind a veil of independence. Regret tasted like copper. She fought the crushing weight of what if, desperate for silence. My diagnosis was a secret Situ guarded. Back then, we still believed in medical miracles. The chaos was just beginning. Situ's gaze drifted back to the ink-stained pages of my life. October 30th, 1 month later. Ruyuan's home back in our city. I'm staying forever. Owning your heart is a lost dream, but sharing your oxygen is enough for now. Watching you from afar is my only joy. November 12th. I escaped my ward just to find you. Fatigue consumes me. Today I fought the fog long enough to limp back toward your light. My shadow stayed hidden. You're thinner now, sitting alone at our table. The sight shatters me. December 20th. Agony pins me down. Just let me reach January. I pray you find eternal love. Build a family. I'll settle my wedding debt in another lifetime. Forgive my lies. This is agony. Ruyuan snapped her voice, a jagged blade. What was he going through? Tell me the truth. Why the talk of afterlives? What is he hiding? She was vibrating on the edge of collapse. He was fighting for one last holiday. Where was I? Stop hiding things. I need to know.
Spill it!
Yurian unraveled her screams echoing through the room in a frantic, desperate rhythm. Between every line of ink, she felt the cold, unmistakable pulse of a coming end. Situ watched her haunted by my solitary struggle against a terminal clock and a broken heart. He grieved for me, wondering if seeing her this broken would bring me peace or pain. Maybe knowing she still cared would have eased my soul. Yu's heart is still beating, he whispered. He's alive, Situ muttered cautiously. Then he's okay. The sickness is gone, she gasped. Why the silence then? I hunted for him everywhere. Why hide? Where the hell is he? She demanded answers. Despite the resentment, she was the mother of my child, my one true love. Situ sighed, explaining my recovery was merely a fleeting pause in a terminal descent. He reached out when you were gone, Situ explained, and you reached out too late. Bad timing turned our lives into a tragic punchline. The diary holds the rest of the answers. January 15th. 95 days without you. Situ flipped to the next chapter of my despair. Triumph. The surgery worked. I've bought more time to be near you. I'm overwhelmed with joy. The ache to hold you is unbearable. Once I can stand, I'm running straight to you. February 1st. I'm seeing red. Forgive me, Yurian. I never knew those monsters were tormenting you. I settled that debt, but those vultures kept the paperwork. They used my past to break you. They extorted you. Don't be scared anymore. I'll make sure they rot for what they did. February 22nd. The Lunar New Year begins today, marking a fresh start or an ending. Victory, those predators are behind bars. Nobody touches what's mine and gets away with it. February 25th. I'm letting go. I won't chase you, but I'll love you until the end. March 1st. Guilt is a heavy shroud. No amount of apologies can fix what I've broken. Situ spilled the secret. You're carrying our child. How could I have been so blind? I'm dying to see our baby's face. March 22nd. Time to share a little secret, Ryan. That new gig I made, that happen. You'd probably deck me if you knew I interfered. You value your independence, and frankly, my fragile frame couldn't handle a hit right now anyway. The manager is an old pal. He's got your back. April 28th. I watched you again. Maternity leave starts today. Our world is about to change. This nervous twitch. Is this fatherhood? Your smile is breathtaking. May 1st, I stood outside your parents' home, watching from the shadows. I lingered outside, paralyzed by fear. I didn't want to jeopardize your chance at their forgiveness. I take the blame. I've secretly prepared one final gift to set things right. I finally bought that luxury car your folks wanted. Seeing your dad's grin makes me think he'll forgive you. I'll never get to be called Dad. Today is May 25th, the day Wobo first entered this world. I'm hiding in the hospital. Hearing Wobo's first cry made my heart sore. It's an impossible feeling to put into words. My legacy continues. From here on out, the woman I love has a brand new protector. Yurian, you're still my number one. Then May 27th happened. Why is the world so cruel? Wasn't my own pain enough? Why punish my daughter too? Learning Wobo has congenital anemia completely shattered my soul. She's so tiny and precious. Why does she have to face such a brutal struggle? June 1st. I might stop writing soon because today my own blood starts flowing through Wobo's veins. When you hold her now, will it feel like I'm there too? Silence took over the room. The crowd went quiet again as Yurian broke down in tears. You, where are you? Talk to me. Why did he want me to read this? Is he okay? I can finally tell you with a smile. I've let the anger go. I remember that March 22nd entry. Wobo was just about to arrive. I wasn't even hunting for work, but then a random recruiter called out of the blue for an interview. I figured a stray resume finally paid off. I went just to see, and the meeting went incredibly well. I was stunned. A single 9-month pregnant woman getting hired right before maternity leave. It felt like a miracle. Landing a job shouldn't be that easy. Now I finally understand. It was always you. Situ almost blurted out that Yu was dying, but he bit back the words.
He's fine. He probably never intended for you to see this, but there are truths you deserve to hear.
Situ looked down and flipped open the diary once more.
September 11th.
Somehow 3 months have flown by. I never actually expected to still be breathing right now. It's because of you and Wobo. Every time I want to quit, your faces give me the strength to stay. I want to watch the sun go down with you. I just want one more day to see her grow.
September 22nd.
I'm such a fool. Yurian, I caught a glimpse of you today. You were scrubbing dishes with Wobo strapped to you when a broken plate sliced your hand wide open. You were bleeding so much. I wanted to run to you, but I can't let you see me like this. I'm sorry I failed you, Yurian. I swear on my life that's the last time you'll ever get hurt. October 2nd. You smiled. I'd almost forgotten what that looked like. It's been so long. Time is a thief. It steals everything in a heartbeat. Nothing has felt right for a very long time. We've been apart for 1 year now. Life has changed us. I'm not the same and your smile's vanished. But I think you'll be smiling a lot more after today. You finally landed your dream job. Jinliu is a legend and his music label is the best. He promised he'd look out for you. I can finally find some peace now. Everything changes but my love for you. Yurian suddenly cut him off, her voice shaking with fear. Impossible. Jinliu wouldn't know Yu. They have zero in common. This whole diary has to be fake. Yurian screamed, refusing to listen. Music was her only lifeline when her world was falling to pieces. That career gave her a reason to live. She thought music was her second chance. She hated believing I arranged it all. Situ just smirked. Yurian, don't be so naive. Think about it.
You really believe that story about a talent scout finding you on the street? Come on.
I've worked in entertainment for years. Only kids believe in fairy tales like that one. Yurian stood there frozen. Shut up. Stop lying. Just stop talking right now. Situ's coldness made Lin Yu snap. She screamed at him, "What do you think Yu is? I know him. He couldn't possibly know a power player like Jin Liu. You're a liar. Where did you get this book? You probably wrote it yourself. Are you and Yu running a scam? What's your end game? Are you trying to punish her? Is this some sick revenge?" Situ just gave a cold, disgusted look. He figured Lin Yu was losing her mind, and there was no point in arguing with a lunatic. Situ's gaze turned cold, pinning me to the spot. Do you truly believe Yu is out to get you? I shook my head frantically. I snapped at Lin Yu, my voice trembling. Drop it. Situ isn't some villain in a cheap thriller. They aren't here for a fight. If I really was a fraud, why would Situ execute my career in public like this? Lin Yu's panic was hitting a fever pitch. This news will go viral. We're going to be ruined nationwide. I couldn't take the noise anymore. Enough, Lin Yu. I growled, my frustration finally boiling over.
It doesn't matter. The truth was coming out today anyway. I'm done living this 5-year lie. I'm through hiding.
I love my fans and I trust them to understand. I fought to stay composed while staring Situ down. Please forgive my friend. She's just being defensive and acting on pure impulse. I'm just an ordinary girl, but I know when someone has my back. I'm truly grateful for what Yu did. If he still won't see me, just tell him this. The resentment is gone. I've finally let it go.
Our debts are paid. I'll respect his rights as Wowo's father, but that's as far as I'll go.
Situ gave me a bitter, thin smile. I'll tell him, but be honest. Do you really not love him anymore? He pushed for that one final heavy truth. Does that question even have a point anymore? I whispered, my voice barely audible. If I still loved him, why did I stay away? I trust you, Situ.
I know I was sick for those 4 years, but 4 years is a lifetime. I debuted 4 years ago. I should have healed by now. I'm in the spotlight constantly. My life is an open book, yet he was nowhere to be found. Not once.
Maybe I've moved on. No. Situ roared, his mask slipping. I've been your guardian angel for all these years. I was the one behind your success. I gave him a sad, weary smile. Is that your story, Situ? Situ, are you saying my entire career was scripted by Yu? That he handed me the crown in Daisha? That he manufactured my fans' love? Do you honestly think that's even possible? He gave me the spark, sure, but I'm the one who kept the fire burning with my own sweat.
Every success you have is tied to him, Situ countered. I laughed a cold, hollow sound. That's impossible. What's the pitch that my fame, my status as a top star was just his handiwork? Is that even realistic? Fine, maybe he opened a door or two for me at the start.
He got me an intro with Sister Chun, but he didn't buy me millions of devoted hearts.
He didn't sing those songs for me. Situ smirked. Never underestimate the reach of a true mastermind. Normal people can't pull that off, but he isn't normal. Call Sister Chun. The truth is one dial away.
The woman who built you wouldn't lie. Or would she? Fine, I snapped. I'll make the call. Lin Yu grabbed the phone, her finger trembling over Sister Chun's contact. She was terrified of the answer. She looked at me, searching for an exit. I bit my lip and nodded. I needed the whole ugly truth. The call connected. Lin Yu, what's the status? Is the Yurian situation finally under control?
We're managing. Lin Yu's voice was uncharacteristically respectful. Sister Chun, sorry to call so late. I need to verify some things about Ruyan's past. Sister Chun's tone shifted to instant dread. Is it serious?
It's not a disaster. I just need to know. Do you know a man named Yu? Lin Yu asked directly. The line went dead silent for a heartbeat before a sharp, panicked gasp broke the heavy static.
He's there, you've seen him.
The room erupted in whispers. She definitely knew the name. Situ wasn't lying, but Yu was still a ghost. Only Situ was standing in the spotlight. He claims Ruyan's success belongs to Mr. Ye. Lin Yu's words were a surgical strike. A hollow laugh followed.
So Situ is making his move.
Put him on.
Lin Yu handed the phone over her face, pale.
She called him Boss Situ. It turned out the man in front of us was a titan we didn't recognize. Could his claims be the reality? But how could Yu have pulled off such a massive deception? Lin Yu was struggling to process it. Situ, was this all Mr. Ye's master plan? Sister Chun asked. Even without the full picture, Sister Chun had already figured out the wreckage of the night. This wasn't his call, Situ replied coldly. I just decided it was time for the secrets to end. Sister Chun never expected Situ to go rogue. I'll take the hit for the fallout, Situ finished. Look, just spit it out, Situ urged, sensing her resolve starting to crumble. A jagged sigh crackled through the receiver. Is he holding up? Is he still with us? She murmured, finally grasping why Situ was pushing so hard. The truth hit her. Like a punch to the gut, Yu was fading, and she was desperate to know if his heart was still beating. Level with me, Chin. Why did you actually sign Ruyan? Was it really about her voice, or was that just a cover story? Situ wasn't looking for a fight or a medical update. He just wanted the one answer that was burning a hole through everyone's mind. I gave him my word I'd stay quiet. I can't break that promise. She whispered, her voice thick with doubt.
Let the blame fall on me, damn it. Situ barked, his patience snapping. This secrecy is killing him, and you know it's not right.
You want her haunted by regret for the rest of her life? His voice went low. The man basically carried you on his back, didn't he? Dead air hung between them for an eternity until she finally let out a jagged breath. Fine. I'll tell her everything.
Ruyan, you wanted the truth about Situ's claims? Well, here it is. He didn't just sacrifice his life for you.
He handed you your entire world on a silver platter. Every ounce of happiness and the very air you breathe, you owe it all to him. She's lost it. The woman is completely delusional. People in the gallery began to hiss, their faces twisted in shock. If anyone else had uttered those words, the crowd would have laughed them right off the stage. But this was the legendary Chin Lu. Ruyan stood there paralyzed, as if a bolt of lightning had just ripped through her. You're being a little dramatic, aren't you, Chin? She barely managed to choke the words out. Chin Lu met her gaze with a sad, thin smile. Trust me, I'm not exaggerating one bit. When he first brought your name to me, I nearly laughed. We went back years even if we drifted apart over time. Even so, from the first time we met, his raw genius had always left me absolutely floored. Then out of nowhere, he calls me up to pitch some new artist he'd found. I was excited because his taste was gold, but seeing you was a total letdown. I literally flipped my desk when I saw your file. I'm a serious artist, not some scout looking for eye candy. I do music with substance, and back then you looked like a hollow, useless doll. Beyond your face, there wasn't a single spark of actual ability in your entire body. You had zero business being anywhere near a stage. The room erupted in hushed whispers as they watched their idol get shredded like a cheap imitation. Chin's voice sliced through the silence. I didn't give him an inch of respect that afternoon. I went ballistic because your total lack of skill felt like a slap in the face to the art form and to me personally. To me, you were a mockery of everything I'd spent my life building. Ruyan's face drained of color as her poise finally gave way. Everything I believed about myself was a complete fabrication. I'd spent years thinking I was some hidden gem when I was actually just trash. Chin Lu could spot a fake a mile away, and it turned out I was the only fool who didn't know I was the joke. Don't look so devastated, Ruyan. You eventually earned your place, but at that moment, that was my honest assessment. After my little outburst, he didn't even flinch. He just reached into his bag and pulled out two things. First, he handed me the deed to Sinai Music, the label everyone knows today as Chance Music. He offered me the whole company if I just signed you. Even back then, that place was worth tens of millions of dollars. Yeah, you played his high-stakes game as always. But Chin Lu wasn't biting. Bet you didn't see that coming, did you? A literal king's ransom was sitting right there on the table, and I didn't even bat an eye. Buying my endorsement felt like a cheap shot at my integrity. That contract wasn't a gift. It was a middle finger to my life's work. I do this for the soul of the craft that has always been the only thing that's ever driven me. So I gave him a cold, hard look, grabbed those papers, and started shredding them right there. I ripped it to bits in his face, but he was one step ahead. He just calmly slid a second agreement toward me. Attached to it was a track, a masterpiece really, but I still wasn't ready to sell my soul. As Chin went to trash the second set of papers, he reached out and stopped her. The cocky confidence had vanished from his eyes. They were filled with raw, naked desperation. Keep in mind, this was a man I practically worshipped as a legend. I never thought a titan like him could look so shattered. Then he finally opened his mouth. Chin, I've never been in anyone's debt my whole life except hers, and I'll never be able to pay her back in this lifetime. Just give her a shot and I'll do the rest. I'm begging you. Hearing a legend like him use the word beg, it shook me to my core. I couldn't wrap my head around it. In my world, nobody was worth that kind of humiliation for a guy like him. So that was it. You took me in. All those years ago, it wasn't about me at all. It was always for him, wasn't it? I threw the question into the phone and the line went dead. A heavy, jagged sigh finally rattled through the speaker. Watching him crumble was more than I could take, he admitted, so I caved. My knees buckled as the weight of his sacrifice hit me. I realized my entire legacy was built on a pedestal of lies. Every milestone I claimed as a victory was actually purchased with his dignity. To people like Chin Lu, my gift was just garbage. He wouldn't have poked with a stick if not for him. Then came the killing blow. The superstar Ruyan is a fiction that only exists because of his sweat and blood. The room fell into a shocked silence while I desperately tried to dismiss his words as some twisted hyperbole. I had grinded for 4 years. Surely my own sweat counted for something in this cutthroat industry. I stood there paralyzed by the internal war between my ego and the cold, hard truth. For 4 long years, I was the one working from dawn until the dead of night, without a single complaint. I sang until my vocal cords felt like shredded glass, pouring everything into those midnight sessions. Back then, the rest of the world was just a blur outside my tunnel vision. My fingertips were constantly raw and bleeding from those strings, forcing a decade of learning into a 4-year hell. If that wasn't raw talent, then what was? But Chin Lu just let out a dry, mocking laugh at the crowd's whispers. You call that talent? Don't be ridiculous. Every conservatory in the country is overflowing with girls who sound exactly like you. To the real pros, your voice is just another dime a dozen instrument. Honestly, you were a letdown at first. But his desperation was so profound, I couldn't just walk away. I had to see the woman who could drive a man like him to such extremes. He didn't want fame. He just wanted a modest life in a quiet home with the woman he adored. He dreamed of a simple car, something reliable but not for show. Just a routine life commuting together and watching the seasons change from their own porch. He wanted a family, a child, a dream that now feels like a ghost of what could have been. He told me he'd promised to let his soulmate chase her wildest dreams no matter the cost. He was determined to make her the biggest name on the planet. And hearing that, my vision blurred with hot tears. That Queen of Pop title was just a private joke between us, once a memory I'd buried long ago. Chinlu's voice remained cold. I checked you out back then, and frankly, you were a total amateur. Your technique was a mess, and I walked away ready to pull the plug on the whole thing. I told him I wasn't in the business of polishing pebbles, but he didn't care. He just ordered me to sign you anyway. He ghost wrote your first track and literally bought out a streaming giant to force it into the charts. He cleared out every major ad space just to make sure no one could ignore your debut. Do you realize the fortune he torched? We're talking more than $10 million on a single track. That move gutted my firm's status, erasing over $100 million in valuation in an afternoon. No way! That's a lie. It's a lie. I screamed, my voice cracking under the pressure. I had convinced myself I was a natural-born legend, refusing to believe my foundation was actually quicksand. Chinlu didn't skip a beat, and I'm just getting started on the receipts. The board was ready to lynch me. They were moving to strip my chairmanship right then and there. I had to drain my personal accounts to buy back shares just to keep the wolves from the door. Then he sent me a 100,000-word manifesto, a brutal autopsy of every single one of your flaws. It was a surgical map on how to hide your weaknesses and fake a proficiency you didn't have. My heart ached as I remembered that manual. It was the moment I realized my art was just a series of calculated tricks. That document was a cheat code that skipped a decade of struggle. And for your follow-up, he doubled down on the data. He poured hundreds of millions more into the furnace, nearly bankrupting the entire label. Your throne was built by cannibalizing Sinai's entire legacy and fan base. Ruin your genius is nothing but a mountain of his cash and his tireless labor. Every note you sang was paved by his sacrifice. That report wasn't just advice, it was your entire existence. I curated every note to mask her cracks and amplify her grace. The public fell for a ghost-written miracle. She was oblivious to the clockwork reality I engineered behind the curtain. As the words faded, the room went cold. True love is a silent auction where you bid your soul and expect zero in return. With that kind of backing, I could have turned a mannequin into a global icon. Her rise wasn't about raw ability. Her legacy was just a masterfully wrapped deception. The audience withered under the truth. She looked gutted, realizing her entire identity was built on sand. The villain in her story was actually the only heartbeat keeping her world spinning. I was a ghost haunting her success, a shadow that loved too much to be seen. Why stay in the dark? Her tears weren't for herself anymore. They were a tribute to a truth she finally felt. Sobs rippled through the crowd as they reached for their own ghosts and buried regrets. A soft melody cut the silence, her own voice singing a confession that suddenly made perfect sense. The motive was finally clear. I tore my world apart just to hold hers together. I'm drowning in gin because your absence is a cancer, but I won't let my weakness destroy you again. Was that my reality? Every hollow night must have been a slow death from wanting her. I chased the bottom of the bottle just to stop seeing her face for one solitary heartbeat. She couldn't stop the flood. The lyrics were a mirror, and she was the only one in the frame. I watched the empty sky, terrified to blink. Sleep was a trap filled with her ghost. I spent years carrying a mountain so she wouldn't feel a pebble. I remember our first peace treaty after a fight. She asked what I'd reincarnate as. I told her I'd be her jewelry or the frame of her glasses. Anything just to stay close. She teased me about it, but the secret was simple. I just wanted you to choose me again. It was a tragedy wrapped in a love story, and she wanted to scream at the sky. If I was your everything, why did you play God from the shadows instead of just holding me? The music didn't stop. It sang of a devotion so deep it became a haunting. I never learned the rhythm of your heart, so I'm giving you my ghost, since I can't give you my life. My touch was a slow poison. Was that why I hid behind business and balance sheets? It wasn't a lack of passion. It was a devotion so heavy it would have crushed her. She hit the floor broken by the weight of a past she never even knew existed. She missed the proposal, the double shifts, the sacrifice for our child. My vitals are supposedly stabilizing now. I shouldn't be this broken, so why am I still hiding in the wings? She offered no answer, only a heavy gaze that pinned Yurian to the spot like a sudden strike of lightning. If I stepped into the light, would she even recognize the man I've become? Can we reconstruct a ruin? She barely made it through the wreckage of those years. 5 years gone and she'd tried every trick to erase me. She raised her glass, toasting a ghost she wanted buried. She promised herself she wouldn't look back, even if her heart started beating for me again. She was waiting for the final crash to start over. But I'd already drained every drop of her faith. Her heart was a fortress of ice. She swore she'd never let another soul inside. Then I resurfaced, admitting I'd been a silent spectator for 5 years. What right did I have? Was this a grand gesture or just me drowning in my own guilt? Does my sacrifice erase her scars? Does her struggle raising our kid alone, anchored by poverty and exhaustion, count for nothing? She built an empire from the ashes while I played the martyr. Can you forgive a man who let you burn? Can that deep agony ever truly be forgiven?